Grady, just want to let you know we're still efforting to get a few more folks here to establish a quorum. So if you could just hang with us for a couple more minutes, we'll have some more people joining virtually.
Will do.
Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for being here, and sorry it's taken a little bit to get started on our agenda. We just wanted to make sure we had enough folks for some of the action items that we have here today. So first order of business, Michael, could you please do a roll call?
Alderman Bob Bauman. Here. Alderwoman Malali Coggs. Mr. Grady Crosby.
Here.
Senator Alberta Darling. Mr. Mark Flaherty.
Here.
Representative Kaylin Haywood. Here. Senator LaTanya Johnson. Here. Mr. James Cantor.
Here.
Secretary Kathy Colton Blumenfeld. Mr. Scott Mansky. Mr. Greg Marcus. Mayor Dennis McBride. Alderman Jose Perez.
Present.
Mr. Gerard Randall. Representative Jesse Rodriguez. Ms. Aisha Sawa. Mr. Omar Sheck. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Thanks again, for everyone here who is on and present in the room, very appreciated. Second order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from September board meeting on 9/16. Is there any discussion? I will seek a motion for approval of the meeting minutes.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Yes.
I'll make the
Oh,
motion.
sorry. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor of approval of the meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Meeting minutes are approved. The next item, I think, just due to some time constraints and due to some other opportunities, I think Megan is maybe out of town. Is that right, Marty?
I'm sorry?
The next item, the convention, and we're going to move that to the next meeting, if that's good with everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll address it further in
Okay.
my comments.
Great, thank you. With that, Steve, I will turn it over to you for the financial report and our budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Before we get into the budget presentation, a few quick updates on 22 financial activity. Number one, on September 29th, the district closed on the bond transaction that the board authorized management to pursue to address the expansion project budget gap. The transaction itself was generally uneventful, and the interest and yield rates came in approximately where we expected them to when we received board approval in August. Considering the recent volatility in the markets, we feel fortunate to have gotten that transaction completed when we did. With the receipt of those bond proceeds, in addition to the monies that we received by extending our concessionaire agreement and the unexpected increase in investment income, the project budget gap of $36 million is now fully funded. And for your reference, on page 21 of the packet today is a revised project budget that shows our current budget of $455 million compared against the original budget of $419 million. And you'll see the change there of just under $36 million. Later in the board meeting today, Mike Abrams will be providing a much more comprehensive update on the budget, on the project. Number two, some good news regarding the district's debt rating. 3 weeks ago, the S&P rating agency raised its long-term rating on the district's senior debt from BBB to BBB+ and revised its outlook from negative to positive. This is quite a commentary on how the credit markets view the financial health of the organization and its long-term financial prospects. Management and the board should be proud of the work they've collectively put in over the last 2.5 years that pulled this organization out of a COVID free fall of sorts to not just recover, but to also grow into a much more financially healthier version of itself. This news is certainly worth noting today. And lastly, number three, regarding the 22 numbers, I'll keep it brief today. You'll notice the regular financial exhibits are included on pages 5 through 12 of your packet. Our projected year-end forecast for 22 has improved by about $1.3 million since the August board meeting, in large part due to an increase in tax revenues. These numbers are incorporated into the budget exhibits that we'll be reviewing here in just a moment. Certainly, if there's any questions regarding the 22 forecast, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Marty, or feel free to jump in as we walk through the budget today. And I think that's a good segue into the budget discussion here. I think this is the third straight week Marty and I are presenting the budget to board members, consistent with past practice from prior years. Earlier this month, Marty and I began having individual meetings with members of the Finance Committee to review the process and assumptions we use to develop the budget. Those meetings are incredibly valuable to me and Marty, and we thank the Finance Committee for the time they've put into this process and the feedback and recommendations they've provided. Last week, the budget was reviewed in open session at both the Finance and Governance Committee meetings, and the Finance Committee passed a motion recommending adoption of the budget by the full board today. I think it's fair to say that the budget has been well vetted before coming into today's meeting. So following my comments today, and after answering any questions board members may have, we will ask the board for a motion to adopt the 2023 budget. So what is the story of the 23 budget? It's really about planning and preparing for the future of the district, specifically in terms of how we operate day in and day out, and how we represent ourselves to the community, to our clients, and to our internal stakeholders. The district will be incurring some startup costs in 23 associated with the opening of the North Building in 24. We'll be making investments in new personnel required to support the operations of the North. We'll be looking to upgrade critical IT infrastructure so that both the North and the South will have similar capabilities and functionality. And we'll be working to rebrand ourselves as we look to begin the next chapter of what we do as an organization and the impact we can and will have on the community in our immediate neighborhood and throughout southeastern Wisconsin. This budget also shows growth in operating income driven by new revenue streams, particularly in the sponsorship and advertising categories that we expect to become a bigger part of the income statement in future years. And it shows year-over-year growth in event activity that we expect will be even greater in 2024. We're also projecting continued growth in tax revenues. Revenue in this category has come a long way in terms of recovering since the depths of the pandemic, but believe there's more outsized growth to come. And we expect our restricted reserve balance to continue to grow. If you recall, this fund was critical to addressing the expansion project budget gap and also serves as the district's rainy day fund for debt service. This fund continues to be in a very healthy state. And lastly, while we expect the unrestricted cash balance to show a decrease by year end, we expect that the investments we're making today in preparation for the business to come in 24 will position us to spit out some positive cash flow by 25. This budget is not a layup. There's some stretch here, and it's going to require the best efforts of the district to achieve these goals, but it's also not unrealistic, and there are potential upside opportunities that we may realize along the way that could lead to net gains above and beyond what's budgeted. So to the budget exhibits, let's take a look at page 14 of your board packet, which is our event mix summary.
Excuse me, just one moment. I do want to acknowledge we have two more board members that have joined. Do we need them to check in? Michael? Thank you.
The event mix summary is on page 14 of the packet, and as you've heard me say in the past, the development of the district's operating budget really starts with establishing these numbers. You'll see the total event activity for the district campus in 23 is budgeted to be 300 events, as noted in column A, line 24. Of the 300 events, only 30% of the budgeted events are considered blue sky events, which are events that we expect to occur but have not yet been booked. Further, these blue sky events drive only 14% of the district's budgeted operating income. These blue sky assumptions represent a modest year-over-year increase from the assumptions we made in the 22 budget. However, based on calendar availability and the strength and continuity of our sales team, we view this budget event mix as low risk. And we expect to achieve these numbers in 23, just as we're on track to achieve and likely exceed our blue sky numbers in 22. Overall, we believe this budget event mix is a good representation of what we can expect for the upcoming year. So with the event mix established, let's jump to the income statement, which is pages 15 and 16 of your packet. Starting with the bottom line first, you can see line 66. We're projecting net income before depreciation and expansion debt to be just about $21.3 million. A slight increase over our 22 forecast number, as well as our 2019 actual number, which represents our last full year pre-COVID. And while it's good news to be trending above pre-COVID levels, with the expected year-over-year growth in event activity, as well as capitalizing on new revenue opportunities, it's fair to ask why we're not realizing more bottom line growth relative to 22 or even 19. And there's a couple of things worth working here that are suppressing net income in 23. Number one, as we've already mentioned, we're making investments in both personnel and resources to prepare for the opening of the north building, and that incremental expense shows up in lines 15 and 16, our operating wages, lines 41 and 44, salaries, and line 47, advertising. Number two, maintaining prior year profitability percentages has become increasingly difficult as prices for goods, services, and labor is increasing faster than our set rates. This is evident particularly in line number 4, food and beverage, which is our share of Levy gross revenue, which is expected to decrease year over year. Both of these issues we believe are temporary and expect them not to be as big a factor in next year's budget. A couple other line items worth noting in 23 that could have an impact beyond the upcoming budget year. Line 10, advertising revenue is up, driven by new initiatives we're pursuing that have the potential to be a bigger part of the district's operating budget in 24 and beyond, such as presenting sponsors for experiential events. By way of example, the We Energies Foundation is a presenting sponsor for the Beyond Monet event, which kicked off earlier this week, and we expect similar opportunities moving forward. Line 11, we're assuming we secure a convention center naming rights partner in 2023 and have budgeted a partial year of revenue For that, we do expect to see growth in this category as we move into 2024 and beyond. Line 12, parking revenue remains relatively modest, but want to note that in future years, this will be an important growth area for the district, and we would expect to exceed 2019 numbers by 2025 due to an increased number of spaces, higher rates, and more event activity. Overall, we're expecting to add $1 million in operating income, or 7% year over year. On the operating expenses, you'll see on line 27, we're expecting a 5% year over year increase. The three big drivers here are line 15 wages, line 18 utilities, and line 25 repairs and maintenance. Wages are up because event activity is up, but also because of the full-time positions that we expect to hire in preparation for the opening of the north building. No surprise with utilities due to the rising energy costs. Overall, from an operating income perspective, the increase in revenues driven by event activity, along with a modest increase in operating expenses, we're showing on line 28 that we expect net operating income to be up year over year by almost 20%. On the non-operating revenues, we'll start with taxes first, lines 29 through 34. You'll see increases across all four revenue streams. These year-over-year increases are consistent with our HVS study that was published in 2020 and consistent with those projections developed by Baird as part of our newest bond deal, and also in line with forecasts by CBRE regarding the Milwaukee hotel market. We expect future growth after 23 to decelerate somewhat as we reach full recovery in most industries impacting tax revenue. Moving on to line 37, the increase in Bucks rent is consistent with the contract. And line 38, Bucks district ticket surcharge revenue shows a slight decrease year over year. We're assuming only one Bucks playoff round, whereas we had 2 in 2022. Moving on to non-operating expenses, which are up 9% year over year. Much of that is coming from salaries, lines 41 and 44, due to new position adds to support the expansion. And the Visit Milwaukee fee, line 49, is increasing as a result of the increasing tax revenues. As for other items, line 46, we're budgeting for a substantial increase in our pension payment to the city. Line 47, advertising expenses up as we expect to begin initiatives towards rebranding and rebuilding the district's website. Line 62, miscellaneous expenses up related to initiatives we're gearing towards our part-time workforce, which is partly a result of the employee engagement survey and also necessary to sustain our BPX culture. And line 63, we're expecting to make a pilot payment to the city consistent with the contract we executed in 2020, which calls for the 23 payment to be $500,000. And lastly, line 67, bond interest for the expansion now includes the bond interest that we will incur as a result of the debt issue we closed on at the end of September to fund the project budget gap. Now, overall, management is pleased with the position of this income statement for 23. We're able to show top-line revenue growth as well as significant investment in expansion startup costs while still growing year-over-year net income, albeit modestly. Any questions on the income statement before we move on?
Steve, I'd just like to add, and the Finance Committee has heard me use this line in our committee meeting last week. Because this is an open meeting, I feel compelled to take exception to give an explanation to your point that we've only budgeted one round of playoffs for the Bucks. It's not for lack of confidence in their ability to win the NBA championship this coming season. It's from a fiscal standpoint, we want to be conservative and just have the commitment reliant on the first round of the playoffs, that's all.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, moving on to the 23 capital budget, which are pages 17 and 18 of your packet. You can see this list is pretty substantial. As was the case last year, we've segmented expenditures into 3 tiers, tier A being the priority and focusing on projects that deal with life safety, building functionality, code compliance, and contractual obligations. Our spend in 23 is projected to be about $500,000 more than 22 at about $3.1 million, which represents a 30% year-over-year increase. Just to quickly note, lines 50 through 54 show about $600K in IT investment, which I mentioned before is to replace aging hardware and upgrade infrastructure in the south building to match the capabilities of the north. Lots of other various projects in this budget that require attention, but also no real surprises. We, of course, will monitor and address unexpected needs throughout the year and appropriately pivot when required. Are there any questions on capital budget? Pages 19 and 20 are the budget cash flow projections for the district's restricted and unrestricted revenues. Starting with the restricted cash flow, the news is positive, where we continue to show growth in that fund balance and expect to end the year at about $23 million. As we grow, and hopefully as this balance grows, we'll be considering options of how best to use this reserve, including paying down existing debt or applying funds towards future capital projects. More discussion to come on that with the board in the coming years as we near call dates on some of our existing debt. As for unrestricted revenues, page 20, line number 1 represents where we expect the cash balance to be as of January 1st. Line 25 is what we expect the cash balance to be as of December 31st of that same year. And line 24 is the net change for the year, a decrease of just over $2 million. Again, not unexpected due to the ramp up of costs associated with the opening of the north building. I would expect us to lose less in 24 and look to, at a minimum, break even in 2025, if not spit off some positive cash flow. Management is not concerned about our cash balance nor our ability to continue as a going concern and to continue to fund the operations of the district and meet our current obligations for the foreseeable future. And just one final note regarding the budget, and that pertains to risks. During the budget development process, we identified 3 primary risks that could get in the way of achieving our goals. Number 1 is risks surrounding our most important resource, personnel. Can we continue to attract and retain employees that fit into our BPX culture and drive the business forward? Number 2 is rising inventory costs for both the food and beverage business as well as the district budget items, including items such as cleaning consumables and building maintenance parts and repairs. And number 3 is recession and the impact, if any, that might have on district business. Some might argue we're already in a recession by definition due to 2 straight quarters of U.S. GDP decline. However, we haven't seen any impact to our business as of today. All 3 of these risks create the potential to eat into the profitability of the district. We believe we've baked into our budget some of that risk, which is one of several reasons why we're showing negative cash flow in 23. But as it pertains to these risks, we do have a playbook from which to draw mitigation strategies from to stem cash outflows that were deployed during the pandemic. We're not overly concerned about it this time, but of course we'll continue to monitor these risks as we move throughout 2023 and pivot as necessary. As I stated at the top of this presentation, this budget has been reviewed by both committees, received the recommendation of the Finance Committee for full adoption by the board today. That is my budget presentation, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Steve. Are there any questions for Steve before we go into the motion? All right. With that, I would seek a motion for approval of the 2023 budget that Steve Marsh just presented for the Wisconsin Center District. Thank you, Aisha. Do we have a second? All in favor of approval of the budget, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Great. Budget is approved. Thank you, Steve. Next order of business is Marty Brooks, NRC report. Marty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before doing so, I just need to check the pulse. He's okay. Did
It's
good.
easier every time, Steve.
Did good, Steve. Congratulations, Steve. Thank you, Board, for your continued support of our budget and our management of the district. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank all the district's department heads who have really taken a very hard look at all revenues, all expenses, and as I've shared with them in this process, that just because in anticipation that you were going to approve the budget, just because you approved it doesn't mean we can go out now and start making financial commitments for 2023. We will be, part of our mitigation strategy that Steve has talked about is making sure that we have not overcommitted our expenses for 23 until we're confident that we're in a good place to be making our net income projections for the full year. So we will be monitoring all expenses and being very thoughtful as we move forward. So thank you to the department heads and thank you, Board, for approving the budget. Looking at event activity, Miller High Life Theater continues to see bookings increase. PTG has confirmed 14 shows to the end of this year, and has already confirmed 27 shows in the first year of their contract, well on the way to exceeding what the minimum requirement is per contract year with PTG for the theater. Tomorrow night, the Admirals open their home season in the arena, and we're just looking forward to a really exciting series of games with the Admirals. They've got a great team, and they've done a lot of promotion leading up to this game to really boost attendance. Pleased to share with you that 2 weeks ago we were able to finalize a new agreement with the Wave to play their indoor soccer games in the Panther Arena. You may recall they took the year following the 20 season off because of the impact it had on their business, COVID had on their business. We entered into a one-year agreement last year for their season. It met, if not exceeded, their own expectations, and have felt confident that their fan base is coming back to enter into a 3-year commitment in our building. So we're really happy about bringing another group of people down to downtown and also to the Panther Arena. Many of you attended Wednesday night's opening of Beyond Monet. Really happy that you all could come. We had over 600 guests come, and the impact has already been felt. We've seen a tremendous spike in ticket sales, I think in part not just because of the outstanding marketing job that we're doing for the event, but also we really encouraged those attendees to take a lot of pictures, do a lot of posts, as they did with Beyond Van Gogh, and we've seen a tremendous amount of hits on all the different social networks, which is resulting in quantifiable ticket sales. That event runs through January 8th of next year. We still have a few open dates for private parties, so if any of you or if you know anyone that's looking for a great holiday party, we have opportunities and windows that we're still looking to sell. With the advance that we've had on planning this engagement, we've been able to take advantage of a number of different promotions that we weren't able to capitalize on with Beyond Van Gogh. We have a Teachers Weekend, October 28th through 30th, where a teacher is free with a paid ticket. Veterans Day, when a member of the military will be admitted free with a paid ticket, and other promotions that are upcoming with Feed America and Visiting Blood Center. As Steve mentioned, in the advertising portion of the budget discussion, We Energies Foundation is a title sponsor to this, and we're really encouraged by what Steve Harms has done with sales, and really expect that to be an important component of future event bookings and series that we have coming onto our campus. In looking at meetings and conventions, since our board meeting in September, we've added 16 new bookings between 22 and 26. And what's really interesting to see is that we've added two meetings for 2022, which just really reinforces what Visit has said, what Megan Setman, our VP of Sales, has said, that the traditional window of booking meetings, 18 months and beyond, has shifted. While big organizations are still booking far out, there are also some organizations looking for short-term opportunities, and we've been able to see that in 2022. As Jim had mentioned earlier, we did have on the meeting agenda to have a presentation by Leslie Johnson of Visit Milwaukee and Megan Setman, VP of Sales for our organization, to present to you both a look at both the short and long-term health and opportunities within the meetings and convention business. Peggy Williams-Smith and I have been working with this group. We went through a number of different rehearsals, presentations prior to today's meeting earlier this week, and Peggy and I both identified a couple of things that we think weren't focused on that are good stories to tell. So we've asked them to delay giving it today, and it'll be presented at our next board meeting. I'm sorry for the delay on it, but we want to make sure it's concise and really providing you with as succinct an insight as you can have. As we approach the end of 2022, the WCD venues are extremely busy and one of the strongest event calendars that we've had for fourth quarter in years. Between the Admirals, UWM men's basketball, the Wave, meetings, Beyond Monet, and Holiday Party, the district's event management team has a full slate of events to facilitate. We, along with Legends, continue to be in active discussions for the naming rights of the convention center. We have a number of very interested parties, and we are very optimistic, so much so that we've encouraged or endorsed Steve to include some of those projections into the 23 budget, that by mid FY23, we will have secured and announced a naming rights partner for the expansion and the existing facility. 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, September 28th, we hosted our third quarter all-employee town hall meeting that was attended by just over 100 full and part-time staff. Nyla Tuxon, our Vice President of HR, shared with the group her vision of how HR should be operating, how she will guide it, and reinforced that she and her department are there to service all of the employees, both full and part-time. I presented to the group an update on the expansion and shared the most current renderings of the interior spaces along with the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that has been specified for purchase. Consistent with my directive to the district's management team, I shared that our collective focus is getting ready for 2024 in support of the expansion coming online. This means an emphasis on employee retention, recruiting, and attracting more full and part-time talent, staff training, and the ever more importance of being bold, proud, and experience obsessed in every aspect of our business and striving to become and then remain an employer of choice. Moving on in the CEO report to the update on the Live Nation Bucks project. I continue to monitor the progress of the Live Nation and Bucks Entertainment Venues project. The next meeting is in front of the Zoning, Neighborhoods, and Development Committee on October 25th. I understand the project has been directed to develop a traffic and security plan, and I'm anxious to evaluate them to ensure there is no negative impact on the district. It is rare to have an entire block vacant and available for a major new mixed-use development in the city. Our expanded convention center needs a mixed-use neighborhood offering hotel, food and beverage, retail, and services businesses that will thrive during all day parts, days of the week, and year-round. This type of development of the former Bradley Center lot is critical to support the meetings and convention business. Assuming the Zoning, Neighborhoods, and Development Committee endorses the project to proceed, the zoning change request will be brought to the full Common Council for a vote on November 1st. I will share with the board updates on the progress of the project in the weeks to come. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I'm open to any questions, and if none, I would move it to Mike Abrams for an update on the expansion.
Thanks, Marty. Any questions for Marty? Okay, great. Mike, give us an update on how it's going out there. Thanks.
Should be good now. Okay, thanks. All right, good morning. Instead of showing you some pictures as we have done in the past, we're going to show the live camera feed off the WCD website. So for those who don't know, this is it's available. There's a live feed link that can get to live feeds within, it's about a 5 or 10 second delay of actually real time. So this is the view looking from the Hyatt looking west across the site. So the team has made extraordinary progress over the past couple of months. As you can see from these photos, a lot of concrete decks have been poured up along the project on the west side where the parking structure is, wrapping around where the expansion connects to the existing facility, kind of on the south side of the expansion. We're all the way up to the exhibit hall floor elevation with concrete. A few months ago, if you were on the tour after the board meeting, we stood kind of right out here on the fence line, looking over. That's now the exhibit hall floor. That floor is going to extend, as you know, all the way over and actually past the property line a little bit of an overhang over on Kilbourne. Structural steel has also started 4 or 5 weeks ago, and if you drove by this morning on your way in, or even from this shot, you can see trusses being set over the exhibit hall steel on the west side, where we've got some storage and mezzanine levels. So that's going to continue over the next 8 months, heavily in the structure. So lots happening on the project site. Also, what you can't see in the picture, buried back in here in the corner, is the central utility plant, which is going to feed power, mechanical systems into the new expansion. Walls are up on that utility plant. The floor just got placed this morning. And also to note, there is a lot of work that happens and is designed up and underneath the existing exhibit hall floor. So what you don't see in here is really a whole nother project that is occurring underneath Hall D right now, with several levels of meeting rooms, parking. So heavily on structure, and everything's going really well as far as construction update. Safety, which is something that the team has done an extraordinary job with from the start. We've got an average of 240 workers right now on site. We'll probably double that at its peak sometime next year. 633 workers have gone through the safety orientation. We've had around 211,000 labor hours so far on site. And what's extraordinary to me is this next fact: 427 safety inspections have occurred since the beginning of the project. So there's a lot of safety directors, managers on site from the different trades, from Gilbane Smith, our general contractor, and there's a lot of focus on safety. Upcoming milestones. Wells Street, which has been closed, as you know, for many months due to the service connector bridge. That bridge is erected. There's framing now going on the sides to frame up the walls. By the end of the year, we are going to open that back up in both directions. At the same time, though, we need to take down some other lanes of some of the other adjacent streets around the north side and the east side of the project on Bellar Phillips and Kilbourne. So starting at around January, those two streets will receive additional closures. We're working right now with the city on obtaining permits and approving traffic control. The vertical concrete cores, which are the elevator cores in the corners and the stairwells, those will be complete on early March. And our steel is due to be complete with all the miscellaneous detailing and steel angles by early June. Next, I'll report on diversity and inclusion updates. Our business inclusion updates, which is our contracting for professional services and construction firms. We have a 31% goal in this project. We are totaling right now around 35%, so doing a great job with that. I feel like those numbers are actually going to keep increasing a little bit over the next couple of months, as we just onboarded kind of our last group of construction trades for the finishes. So I feel like that's even a little bit conservative now. So I'm hoping there's a little bit of an uptick to report on that in the upcoming months. The workforce, which is the labor on site. We also have a 31% goal on that between minority, female, and disabled veteran workforce. We're meeting that goal, or exceeding it by just a little bit. We're around 32%. So we need to maintain that goal throughout the rest of the project, and there's a big focus on that. Our RPP, which is our Residence Preference Program, which we have reported in the past, has not quite met the goal yet. We're still seeing that true as of today. We have a 40% goal for that. We have increased it a few percentages over the past couple of months. We're tracking right now at about 29% overall with RPP. This issue with RPP is extremely important to the district, to CA Icon, to Gilbane Smith, to the trade partners. We have had a lot of resources and energy focused on this in the past couple of months since we've seen those numbers. We're thinking those numbers were going to start increasing more as we onboarded a few of these key subs. We're seeing them right now maintaining or increasing just a little bit. Led by Prism Technical Management, who's our workforce inclusion consultant. They've been heavily involved with discussions right now, proactive measures with all sorts of groups in town, including Big Step, the Social Development Commission, Employ Milwaukee. We've had discussions with the unions. So a lot of the efforts have ramped up and the focus from all the trade partners. I sat in a meeting this week with all the principals and owners of subcontractors that are about to be brought on board, and some of the existing principals and owners of subcontractors. Gilbane Smith is emphasizing making sure they have a plan put in place early, and that's really the key, is having an early plan for these RPP workers. So I'm encouraged by all the discussions and the energy and the focus around it. Hopefully those numbers will start to increase. One portion of the RPP that actually we're doing very well in, there's sort of a subset goal, and that is of the current RPP hours, 25%, there's a 25% target of those hours that need to come from workforce in the impacted area, zip codes of the city. And we're at 36% right now, which is great, out of the 25% goal. So that's encouraging. We just need to get the overall RPP number up over the course of the project. Some of the, to move on to some of the community outreach and events. At the end of August, we held our art consultant led a group at the local organization called Marn. There's an educational event on the upcoming RFP process. So that went really well. We had this week for the Construction Inclusion Week, we had a great panel discussion joining the construction teams, having a conversation on workplace discrimination. And Marty, if this is the time, if we can, should we show the video from the ACE mentorship event that we held this week? So there was another event held on site this week for ACE, which is the architectural construction and engineering focus group, where we had different trades come in, set up booths. There were 6 schools represented, probably over around 60 students that showed up and went to different booths and learned all about different trades. So it was a great, encouraging event. There was a lot of energy around it. We want to show you a short video clip of that event.
Hello, everyone. I'm here at the Wisconsin Center Expansion Project for our first ACE Trades Day for the ACE Mentor Program of Wisconsin. We are building the workforce of the future. We have over 6 schools and over 60 students represented, going through 7 stations and an entire site tour. It is very important for us not only to teach the college track, but the skilled trades, and really to energize them about the different types of skills and the different types of careers in our industry. They get to learn about putting an electrical outlet together, virtual reality, putting pipes together, HVAC controls, heavy equipment. And what more powerful of a week than Inclusion Week in our industry, and specifically Day 2 on belonging, and that togetherness, that we're doing this together as a collective community to build the future of our industry.
Mike, before you take it back, I just want to remind the board that 2 years ago, when we came to you seeking approval to move forward with the expansion and getting your endorsement to do so. One of the commitments that we collectively, the board and our organization, made was that we were going to ensure that this project not only dealt with diversity and equity and inclusion, but also was very committed to being engaged with the community. And I really need to call out Icon, Gilbane, Smith, in not just giving anyone lip service, but over the past year and a half, really making that mandate a reality and seeing 100 students from 6 high schools come in and be able to get hands-on experience in an area where they need a pipeline to fill the workforce, male, female, black, white, to have them come to our property and get that type of exposure. And also stress that this is a terrific career that doesn't require a college education in many cases, and an opportunity for them to explore. So I just, we made a commitment to the board that we were going to make this a priority. We and our partners are doing so, and I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question? Okay, so regarding the RPP numbers, what's the underlying issue around not meeting those numbers early on? Is it the skill set? I know you said that as other, I guess, contractors come on, you're expecting those numbers maybe to go up. So why why do you feel that those numbers will increase? Are you seeing minorities cater to more specific fields than what is than what's on site early on? I mean, if we're not meeting those numbers now,
Good question.
why are we so confident that we're going to meet them
Yeah, it's a
later?
good question, and just for clarification, it's not a minority workforce program. It's an unemployed and underemployed program that was started the city, I don't know how many years ago, but something that we've adopted and made it a goal on this project, as well as a lot of the other projects we've been involved with in town. I think early on, and as you can see from the video link, the type of work that has occurred to date on this project has been heavy equipment operators, has been now concrete and steel, and we traditionally don't see those types of trades being heavy on the RPP numbers in the past. We feel encouraged by some of the upcoming trades that are mechanical, electrical, plumbing, finished trades that we typically have seen in past projects have either met or exceeded the 40% goals. And there's actually several subcontractors on our job that have committed to more than 40% on this project, including our electrical subcontractor, Staff Electric, and they have a lot of workforce hours planned on the project. So we do see that still increasing. Why we're not seeing the RPP workforce available right now, we're trying to get to the bottom of that. I think there's a labor issue across the board, just getting workers on your project. Every industry has seen that over the course of the past couple of years. So when our contractors are calling the hall and asking for RPP workers, sometimes they don't have any workers on the bench per se. So there's a labor issue to begin with. The focus, really, it's all about planning. We just had a great meeting with all the subcontractors on this project, and we sort of had a roundtable discussion about this very issue. And the ones that are successful pre-plan this out 6 months before they hit the job. They can't start planning the week they start sending workforce onto the project. So it's a pre-planning. A lot of it was discussed about getting the RPP workers, if they are available, into their shop, into their office for a month or several weeks even before they hit the project to orientate themselves with the firm to make sure they're comfortable out on the job site. So hopefully that answered your question.
It does answer the question, thank you, but since you said, you know, kind of like on the front end, with the heavy equipment and things like that, you very seldomly see RPP numbers that qualify in those areas. It would be nice to see if we could create an even stronger pathway. I know we do a lot of recruiting for plumbers and electricians and things like that, to kind of ensure that we can meet those numbers early on. I don't know if it's the recruitment or if it's where those facilities are housed that's an issue, but it would be nice to see a concentration on those efforts as well.
Absolutely.
And Senator Johnson, we are sharing this information in the spirit of full transparency. We're not proud of this yet. It's something that we committed to 2 years ago, and something that we in ICON speak about regularly, and we're committed to getting 40% or better, and that's why in preparation for this meeting we asked Mike to, we've got to share this information, so it's a focus of ours. We haven't achieved it yet, but we are committed, and we will make it happen.
Any other questions?
If that's all right. Are you, we're developing projects right now, and it seems like everything has doubled the budget for us. I said it last time, I think between Marty and the leadership team and you, Mike, and CAICon, you have done an incredible job navigating through some really difficult times. So, super happy with this.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other questions, comments? Great, thank you. With that, annually, this board elects officers to serve for the next year. The following slate is being presented as part of this from our board of directors. These are the folks who have expressed interest in the 4 executive roles. Treasurer, Mark Flaherty. Secretary, Greg Marcus. Chairperson, Grady Crosby. And Chairperson, Jim Cantor.
Those are reversed. What? Secretary is Mark Flaherty.
Sorry. Secretary, you guys are not switching roles. Secretary, it's the current roles. Secretary will be Mark Flaherty. Treasurer, Greg Marcus. Chairperson, Grady Crosby. Vice Chair, excuse me. Sorry, Grady. Keep trying. And Chairperson, Jim Cantor. Let me go through that one more time.
Yeah, Jim, I thought I had you this year,
Greg
man.
Marcus. Secretary, Mark Flaherty. Vice Chairperson, Grady Crosby. Chairperson, Jim Cantor. Unless there are any others that have expressed interest, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve this slate of officers.
Second.
All in favor of approval of the slate of officers, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. And those are officers will continue in their roles. Next order of business is the future board meeting dates. At this point, we are going to keep the November board and committee meetings on and look for future communications as we get closer in. Those may be taken off your calendars depending on where we are in different scenarios and situations, whether it's something with the expansion that we need to address or not. Any other future board discussion items, certainly always bring those up to us here in the board meeting, or you can send any of us an email or call on things you would like addressed in the next board meeting. We will put those on the agendas as we have time and see fit to get them in. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All right, great. Have a great weekend, and if we don't see you, have great holidays if we're not seeing you in November. Thank you.
For those of you who attended virtually, thank you.